chat rooms, if you're on chat with a whole bunch of people, and you type a message in, it updates everybody's chat right away. What Sockets does is, instead of going with the old school HTTP request response cycle, it basically leaves a connection open between the client and the server, so that whenever somebody updates something, it goes to the server says, hey, some got updated, and then sends the response to everybody saying, updating their stuff. Because obviously, the server can listen for stuff from the client, when the client sends a request, server can hear it. But if the server updates something, the client has no way to know if the server wants to send it something. Only way around that would be to maybe write code to where, say, okay, client, when you load this page, refresh it every 10 seconds or something like that. Not a very good way to do it. So they came out with Sockets. So what it does, when the client connects, it opens up a connection, and you'll read this in a platform, kind of like a telephone. You make a phone call, you got two-way communication, and that's what this opens up. So let's go through here. A couple things to know. First, a client, aka user, their browser, can only send something to the server. So if you're in a chat room, have multiple people, you're not talking between the different people, you're going through the server. The server actually has a little more flexibility. It can do multiple things. It could either only communicate back to you specifically, it can communicate back to everybody except you, or it can communicate to every single person that's connected to that server. And we're going to use all three of those cases in this group chat demo. And they have a really cool ice cream analogy in the platform that kind of talks about it too. So, alright, group chat, let me go ahead and bring that up here. And I may refer back to this because this is a lot of code, and if you do it constantly, you'll memorize it, but when you haven't done it every day for a while, you can refer back. There's nothing wrong referring back to it, just don't copy and paste. Alright, so let me find group chat. So it's a pretty basic wireframe. When you load it up, when you go to the site the first time, it just prompts you for your name. Once it gets the name, sends an event to the server saying, hey, somebody just joined. And then it loads up the actual chat room. And let's see what it says. It should update in real time and show all the chats that occurred before a user joined a room. So if you join and people have already been chatting, you should be able to see everything that's been going on before you get there. One thing they recommend in here is, before you start anything, kind of write down all the things you have to do, because this can get confusing really quick, because you've got client talking to server doing something, then talking to other people, so it's hard to follow sometimes. So it's good to make a list. So let's just kind of go through that. So what'll happen? I'm just going to write basic stuff in here, and we'll comment it out as we go. So first thing I do, client goes to site, prompts for name. All right. Next thing it'll do, the client saves name and emits. That's the keyword here is going to be emit. It emits to server, and then the server, and usually it's going to emit something like got new user, let's say.
What does emit mean?
Basically like a broadcast. It's basically emit. How to exactly define emitting?
Okay, emitting, I get it.
Yeah, like sending something out, like emitting light or something like that. So your three different ways that I was talking about earlier. Dot emit just means you send it out to one person usually. We'll see this on back end. There's socket dot emit, sends it only to the user. Socket dot broadcast.emit sends it to everybody but the user, and then there's io.emit that emits it to all the users. But like I said, the client is only has one option, that's just simply emitting something to the server. And this, we're going to be using jQuery in here too, because it's, jQuery is event driven. Sockets is basically the same thing. It's event driven, so it waits for events to happen, listens for events, and when those events happen, then it triggers it to do something. So whereas like in jQuery, we listen, you would listen for an ID of something to be clicked or something like that. With sockets, we can actually specifically name things, but we have to make sure the names match on both sides. So let's just say when the user goes on, types in their name, the browser emits got new user. Well, the server is going to listen for an event that's called got new user. And it's really important that those two match up, because if they don't match, then it's not going to hear the right thing and won't do anything. So what's it going to do when it hears got new user? Well, what should it do? It'll load up all the chats that was already there. So it's going to emit to user. What's it going to emit? It'll just emit, let's just say new user. And this will send them with the old messages, if there are any. And then on the client side, they listen for new user and do whatever they do. At the same time, obviously once, and we're going to keep, like most chat rooms, most people have been in chat rooms. When somebody joins the room, you get a notification, hey, David has joined this room. So at the same time, the server also needs to broadcast to other people on there that, hey, we got a new user. And the way we're just going to update it inside this chat box. So anytime we update this chat box, we'll just call it update chat. So it's going to broadcast update chat to everybody with new user. And then the other clients listen for update chat and updates the chat box. All right, so that's one thing. What else happens? Obviously, they type in a message. So let's say client emits message, and actually we'll just say emits new message. And then the server listens for new message. Then once it gets it, does whatever it needs to do. And then they call it full broadcast, meaning it sends it back to every person connected, including the original user. Full broadcasts, and it would just update the chat again. All right. And let's see, I think that's almost everything. Let's see. Chat should update in real time, even show out chats before they joined. Okay. Okay, well that's all it requires. You can add other stuff on here like notifying when a user disconnects or leaves the room. So let's just save that. We'll comment them out as we finish them up. So, all right, let's start this project. Let's see, I'm just going to make a new thing called group chat, and we'll cd into that. Okay, nothing's in here right now, so first thing we'll do is npm init, because I want a package.json file. Oh, I forgot to do the -y. This is a lot quicker if you do npm init -y, because then notice it keeps asking me all these questions. I have to answer them. If you just do -y, it'll automatically just say yes to everything. Okay. So if we look in my folder, it's this part. Oh wait, I don't know if I can increase this size. So now I have a package.json file. And here it is here. Okay. So now I need to install some dependencies. We're going to use EJS for the views, Express for the routing, and now we're going to have another package called socket.io that's going to allow us to use sockets. So I'll go ahead and install all of those and install EJS and do a -- save at the end of that. And then what that'll do is automatically create dependencies and add that into your dependencies. So like Kate was saying earlier, when somebody else goes to this project, as long as they have this package.json and whatever you need is in this dependencies, they can do npm install and it'll install whatever's needed. And then we need npm install express. And npm install socket.io save. Alright, and all three are there, so that's good. I already know I'm going to need a few other things in here, so let me create my server.js file, and I'm going to have a static folder. Inside there, I'll make a style.css and a views folder. And let's just go ahead and make the index.ejs. Okay, so I think we got everything here. And should be updated. Yep. Alright, so let's start creating our server. Let's see what I can remember offhand. Var express equals require express. Var path equals require path. What was the other one? Var app equals express. Okay, I think I got it so far. And what do we got? App.use express.static path.join, and I forgot what this part is. So got the dir_name.static plus, was it just static? /static.
Does the plus sign matter, or is it in the documentation says just as a comma?
Oh, is it in there? Oh, okay. Yeah, in this case, you don't need that. That was another place that I do it slightly different when I do that. Okay. Good catch. Alright. And app.set views. Well, I know one of them is view engine, comma, EJS. But before that was an app.set. I think it was views. And I've got to look this one up again. Path.join dir_name views. Join. Okay, so if that's all right, let's set up our route. App.get. This is going to be a single page application. It's just simply going to have just the chat rooms. So we only need to set up one route. And function recres request response. And we'll just res.render index. And then we do the app.listen. What was it? The port number function. And we'll just console.log port 8000, whatever, doesn't really matter. Open. All right. Now this is going to be a key thing. So this is how you normally did it, normally will, but with sockets, it needs to know when this connection opens up. So you actually need to save this into a variable. And we'll call it server. I think you have to call it server. I'm not 100% sure, but let's just call it server. But first, let's just make sure this is working. Before we do that, let me just create a view file. Oh, forgot. With Sublime, it doesn't know what EJS stands for. So if any of you have not done this, if you go into view syntax, you can change what type it looks for. So switch that to HTML. There, that's better. Group chat. Okay, and we need to bring in, I'm just using the CDN for jQuery, which is right here. Okay. And let's go ahead and do a div ID container for the whole thing. And what was on there? Oops. Looks like just a, we'll worry about this prompt in a second. So we just got to title the chat box and a form. So we'll go H1 conversation board, and then we'll create a div for the chat, and that's what jQuery is going to update inside this div whenever we get new messages, and a form. We have an input for the text, and I need to give this an ID. I'll explain why when we get to that. Give an ID of message. I don't think the name matters. Oh yeah, and we'll just give it a placeholder called enter message here. Let me bring this up a little bit. Okay, and a submit button. Send. And I think that's all we need. Now with this form, unlike what you're used to where we put action, form action, and where it's going, this is going to be done a little differently, so we don't need those because this page is never actually going to refresh, or we don't want it to. Let's make sure this is popping up and working. Start our server.
So any forms in inside that we don't want to refresh the page, we don't use it.
No, not necessarily. It depends what you're doing, how you're setting it up. I'll show you how to do it where you submit forms. Because submitting form by default, it'll send a form to the back end. By default, it just knows, hey, when you click a button to submit a form, send it to the back end, do whatever it says do, and come back. And it automatically refreshes the page. But we'll touch on that here in a little bit. All right. And it's working so far. So let's open it up. Okay, that part's up. I'm going to add some styling here because first, if you notice when the user first goes onto this, that is hidden. So we are going to say container display none. And I need to link this. So link, was it style.css. And if I refresh, okay, it's there, but it's hidden. All right, so what's next? Let's do the prompt. Let's bring in some jQuery into this. So script, don't need all that. Oops. And what was it? Document dot ready function Alright, so once the page loads up, what are we going to do? We need to prompt for the username. We're going to need to store it in a variable to send to the server. So we're just going to say var name equals prompt. Please enter your name. Oh, and also, just because I like to make sure everything's working, I just like to put in jQuery is on. Just some kind of message to say everything's working. So let's see. There's the prompt. And let's go ahead, open up console. jQuery is on. So obviously, if prompt didn't come up, it wouldn't be working. So, all right. So we've got the what? Yep. All right. Let's do our socket. Let's hook up our socket now. I'm going to close this out just for a second. All right. So let's change the server file first. And let's see. All right. So once the client connects, saved in server. So now we need to connect it to I/O, and we're going to create var I/O. What is it? Equal to. What is it equal to? I got notes. Cheated. There we go. Okay. This is where we require the package we installed, socket.io, and inside of that, it also has a listen function, and it's going to listen for server. This server right here is referring to this server. So as soon as this thing hooks up, it saves the server, and it's going to listen for that to show up. Once it does, it knows we have a connection, and so now we can do io.sockets.on. This is the important line. I think it goes like that. Is that right? Yeah, something like that. Okay, dot on. What's it doing? Dot on, that's going to be a keyword for everything we do. Dot on means that's the listener. So it's listening for something. So it's listening, in this case, for a connection. As soon as the connection happens, it's going to do something. And let's just console.log new connection on socket ID. Okay, and this is the cool thing here. If I'm right. Okay, so when a connection is made, it's going to create a connection, and it automatically will create an ID for that connection. And I forgot I need to pass in socket in here. So this that's getting passed in is going to have an ID, which is socket ID, and that is going to be connected to the front side. So let's go there.
So that connection string, that's just a string that you're passing?
This is a keyword that the I/O module knows when it does socket on it. It listens for this. It knows that connection. I don't know exactly how, because if you look in this file, let's bring it up here really quick. It is actually it's inside the socket I/O client, I think. Where is it? Maybe it's not in there. I don't think it's come up yet. I'll look for that in a minute. Anyway, that module is really long. It's got all these functions and prototypes and just all a bunch of stuff. So use the word connection. It just knows when somebody connects, that is a new connection. This is the server side. Now we got to change the client side to actually send that out, and that is going to be up here. So first, just like we in a line up here, we require jQuery. We've got to do the same thing for the socket. So this one is what I write here. Oh, I think it's source equals socket.io socket.io.js. I hope that's it. This order is important too, by the way. So jQuery first, then you have to require this socket.io file, and Node is going to know that this is in a Node modules folder, so it's going to bring everything up. And then actually right up here, oops, right up here, this is where we're going to create our socket, I think, yes. Socket variable, this is what gets passed to the server, equals io.connect. So inside of this socket.io file that we are requiring up here, there's a .connect, and this should, if I got it right, I hope. Oh wait, I think I might need to invoke it. Okay, let's find out. Just restart. No errors. Prompt. I've got nothing. That might be good. Okay, it's working. There is a connection. So this is logging what I told it to, and this is the socket ID. Now, for this connection, every user that comes on is going to have a completely different ID. So let's see if that works. This is where incognitos come in handy and work, because if you just open up one up and it's another tab, what does it do? I don't know. What does it do? No, it actually did create a new socket on that. But let's just disconnect. I like to work with incognito windows. It's that way you know. Pull this out. So local. Oops. And did nothing. But notice that's yet another socket connection showed up. So okay, all working right now. Let's see. So what was the first thing we need to do? Let's go to our text. So client goes to site, prompts for name. Boom, that's done. Oh, well, let me comment a text. Okay. Well, just delete it. Client saves name, emits got new user to server. All right. So where are we? Right here. So we've saved the name, and now we're going to do socket.emit. And the first parameter argument is going to be the event, and here we're going to call it got new user. And what are we going to pass it? And this is with Node, everything you pass back and forth is JSON objects. So we are going to send a JSON object with the key of name, and the value is going to be the name that we saved upon the prompt. Okay, so, and then on the back side, we have to listen for it. Where'd it go? There it is. Okay. Which is socket.on, and this is where it's got a match. So it's got new user. So it's going to listen for this event, and when it hears it, it's going to run this callback, and we need to pass in data. This data we're passing in is going to be this JSON object that we're sending back there. And just to...
There's that second dot on goes inside the original item.
Yeah, pretty much everything. Just like, you know how jQuery, you put everything within a document already, except once I'll need to document on or something. Pretty much everything is going to go inside of this. And for group chat, we're not going to make anything. Literally everything we do is going to be inside of this function. All right, so what do we do? Let's just do this. Console.log data. Let's just see what data is. Now, I console.log constantly. So, oops. Let's close this out. Close. Okay, Dave. Sent in Dave. And there we go. So this is data, is name. So what we need to do is let's save this user when that happens. So we'll say, hopefully it's var user equals, we can't make it data. Data is the whole object, so we just want the name. So let's just say data.name. And okay. What we need to do when the user goes on, we're going to need to save messages, because you wouldn't need to do this except for the requirement that since you want a user to see all prior messages, you're going to have to save those messages somewhere. Otherwise, you'll have no way to give a user the messages prior to when he's joined up. So, var messages, we'll just use an array to store them, and we'll just start chat room started.
Would that normally be JSON data that you'd be pulling from the server messages?
It will be. When this gets sent to the client, we are going to put it in a JSON object. But for now, we're just saving it. This is as a data structure back here. So what do we do? So once we get the user, save the user's name, and we want to emit, because we want to send just that specific user. This is going to be, let's just say, added user. And we are going to send this added user a JSON object. And we'll just say messages. And we're going to send that array of messages. So now, let's go back to the client side and listen for that. And this is all going to be within the document.ready here. So we will do socket.on. And what did I say? Added user? Yep, added user. Added user. Callback. It's going to receive some data. This is the JSON object we're sending again. And we want to display the messages. Now there could be a lot of messages in here, so we're going to need to loop through them. So let's just do a basic for loop. Data.length, oops, I++. And we'll use jQuery to append the chat box. Or did I call it chat? Chat. Dot append data of I. Hopefully that's right. Oh yeah, one other thing, because we did display none on that. So once the user enters that name, let's just go ahead and change the CSS. So we'll use jQuery for that. So the container is what we made hidden, so we'll do the .css. Display. Well, for the .css jQuery, first you have to pass it which attribute you want to change, and then the value, which is display, say block. Okay. Let's see if this works. Partly works, so we know the display part works. Inspect element, console, we got nothing. So chat.append, it is an ID.
In the jQuery, do you need to change the HTML to do the loop?
Oh, you're talking about, wait, this loop part?
Yeah, because the loop to show the messages is only in jQuery. The HTML is not changed, is it?
Well, as the jQuery should be updating the HTML. So for each iteration through the loop, it'll be appending something to the chat box.
Oh,
Is that kind of clear?
I didn't.
Yeah. You know what? Let's just make sure I'm getting my data. Console.log data. Okay. Now here's another thing. This is we were talking earlier to some people. This is going to happen to some of you. You're going to console log something, and then you're not going to find it. You have two different consoles you're working with now. You got a console in the browser and a console on the server. Anytime you console log something on the server side code, it'll be on your terminal, command prompt, wherever you're working in. Anytime you console log on the client side, the HTML files, EJS files, it's going to log in the browser console right here. So actually, I think I may need to restart the server completely here. Okay. Check name, conversation. Oops. Inspect element, console. Okay, we're getting data. You can see it's an object. It's messages. So that's the problem. Because I think I referred to it as... oh, maybe I need to go through... Oh, let's try this. Data.messages. Let's see if that works. Nope. Data.messages. Oh, doing a little troubleshooting here. Oh, there it is. Okay, we got it now. So, wait, oh man, that's tiny. There we go. Let's just throw a little, some kind of CSS on there, make it a little better. Some basic stuff. Border, px solid green. Just break some things apart a little bit. Margin, px. Okay. All right.
What was the issue? I'm sorry.
Oh, when I was looping through, I wasn't looping through the actual array. So this object is based. Oh man, can I enlarge this part? Oh yeah, it will. Okay, there we go.
So you were saving your name though as a messages?
No, I was when I did the messages, I just initialized it with just a chat room started message, just so we have some. Because if there's nothing in here, the first user goes on, there's none to display. So we just want to make sure it's working. So that's why it's on here. But the data that's being passed in is the object, and then notice that has messages. So we need to refer to data.messages, which contains the array of the messages.
Can you show us again, Chris, how you pass that?
The messages, yeah. So this is a server side file. This is where we save the variable with the array, and then when we emit the event of added user, the emit is going to take two arguments. First is the event that the client needs to listen for, and second is your JSON object. And then you name the key, and this first part is this right here. Yeah. And then obviously the second part refers to this variable where I created it. Okay, so that part's working. Client saves name, emits new user to server. Just leave that works. Server listens, got the new user. We got that part, and emitted to the user with messages that's showing. Okay, but we also need to update everybody else. So at the same time, go back to our server-side code. All right, so once we've emitted to that user, we also want to tell them, hey, this person has joined. So let's just create another variable called join. And we'll just make this a message called, where did I say it? That's right. Let me just do this. User equals data. Var joined equals user.name plus as joined. So that's just going to be our message, and what we want to do, let's push that into our messages array. That way people that log on later can see everybody who has joined. And now we want to broadcast. And here we want to broadcast to everybody that's hooked up besides the user that joined, because do you need to see when you joined? Because you already know when you joined, so you don't need to see that. So that's socket.broadcast.emit. And we're just going to use update chat, because that's all we're doing here is we're updating the chat box. And pass it the JSON object called message, and it's going to be this joined message that we created. Okay.
So that update chat, what is that?
This is what we're naming the event. We're actually going to use this several times, because whether the updated chat is going to be a new user, new message, user left, it's doing the exact same thing. So I'm just going to create just one event to cover all of them.
Okay, so that first parameter that you're passing into after .emit is always like whatever you're naming.
Yeah, it's the event, which has to have a paired connected thing on the client side. So it has to have a match.
Okay.
So now server's emitting this, so our client needs to listen for it. And this is in a
Did you send all of the entire message array?
only the first time.
Okay. So I'm sorry, what did you send just then in that update chat?
Just
to join. Okay.
just this one message, because obviously you don't need to send the entire message, because whenever you join you've already got all that. So now you just need the newest message. Okay, so let's create our listener socket.on for, what did I just call it? Short-term memory. Update chat. And then what do we do with that? Obviously we're getting, I keep putting date. Data. Let me comment out that log up there. I don't need it no more. I'll just go ahead and I'm good. I personally, when I'm doing things, I like to console log constantly, even if I haven't found a problem yet. It's a good chance I will, so might as well just console log it right away, making sure the data is, you're getting what you want.
So all that socket.on right there is doing is saying, okay, on that update chat action, pass that data.
Yep, it's listening for update chat. So when the server emits update chat, this is listening for it. It hears the call and it answers the phone. And then it does whatever it needs, which in this case, now we do the jQuery. And we are going to update that chat box. .append. In this case, data should just be a single message. So let's see if that works. Okay, chat room started. And let's go incognito window. Go. And say Chad. All right. So you see, the first time I went in this window, I was Dave. So all I had was chat room start because I was the first one in. Second user, Chad, joined up. Notice he instantly got the messages array that included that first one, and when Dave joined. And then as soon as
when you join, when you do the prompt and enter your name, that pushes that value to the messages, which is why that didn't load the first time, because that message didn't exist yet, and you had done it to trigger and update messages
right.
the first time. The second time, when you log in as a different user, your name already existed in messages, which is why it displayed on the load.
Well, now when the second user joins in, he doesn't see his own name
Right.
because that message is only broadcast out to everybody but that user. And let's just do one
The
thing.
reason why I saw David join is because you push that to the messages array, and it loops over all the messages that are in that array when it initiates.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. So let me, oh yeah, we will. Let me separate these out. So what I need to do, when I create my messages, I forgot about this. Since we're appending, it'll read HTML, so we're just going to add p tags. Where else am I doing a message? Oh, right here. Oops. P plus and okay. Dave, check started. I had to refresh that page, so. But notice Dave just joined again. So, all right. So it looks like that's working. So client listens, new user, broadcast. We just did those two. We're done with that. And we just did this. So now the main part is the new message part.
I don't think this is in the scope of what we're supposed to do with this project.
Yeah.
But how would we know when a user left the chat?
I can do that at the end. There's Socket.io actually listens for that if you tell it to, and can do something about that. So, kind of like that connection keyword that I used for listening when somebody connects. There's one called disconnect that specifically listens for when the socket is disconnected.
Dave has left the chat room, and that way when he pops back in, he gets another message.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So let's take a look at this new message part. All right, this is the tricky part. So right now, when we do this, what's going to happen? It actually refreshes the page because that's what forms do. So let's just add some stuff. So in jQuery, we need to listen for when the form is submitted. So that would be listen for form. What is it? Dot submit. Yeah. So when it here's the dot submit on the form, what's it going to do? What is it going to do? I think it's going to do something. Hold on. Sorry. A little rusty on my jQuery. Yeah, don't forget. Yeah, jQuery, this first part is no different than your CSS selector. So an ID, you preface it with hashtag, class with a dot, and if it's just a HTML tag, just form. Now, if I had multiple forms, obviously I would need to use an ID to.
So is that your ID on your form?
No, it's just the tag, because I don't have a hashtag or dot or anything. And I only have one form, so it's not going to cause any errors. It actually probably would be better to give the form an ID and use the ID here in case you do have multiple forms.
You just call that by saying like form dot, or you can just call it the ID. Never mind.
So technically,
Yeah.
if we had a second form on, it would think that both of them.
It may get confused to different things working. Sometimes they'll look at the second form or for I don't know. It'll like half the time it'll give you send it to the wrong form. So okay, so what do we want to do on submit? We want to create the message. So we're going to save our form message equals. We want to pull the value from that form. So we're going to need to get the jQuery thing. In most chat rooms, you're also saying who created the message. So let's just take care of that right away. Notice we saved the user's name, so we can still reference that. So we'll say form message equals name. We'll just say whoever says plus jQuery to pull the val from, and this is why I needed the ID in this input, because we're going to pull the value directly from that input, and that's the .val from there, and that should be it, hopefully. Let's make sure that's working. Console.log form message. Wait, what the heck? Oh. Let's see. And submit. Oh, wait. Here's the trick.
Hit the prevent default.
The form, so what's going on when you submit the form? First, jQuery is listening for it. Before anything happens, it's listening for it. So it kind of intercepts that form, and it's saying, okay, submit, do some. Let's grab the val. But then once it's done doing what it's doing, it basically passes the ball back to wherever it's going. So in this case, it's going to send that form to the server because that's what forms normally do. So to prevent that, before we finish whatever we're doing, we just return false. And this actually returns false back to the client saying, and it basically blocks it from submitting a new request to the server. So it never refreshes the page. So do I have my, yeah,
So on
let's,
any function where we don't want it to do a page refresh, we just return false and we'll.
yep, exactly. And that's how, like, you do like single page applications with like Ajax calls and stuff. You'll do the call, get what you need, and then return false to make sure the page doesn't refresh. But the jQuery will update whatever you need to update on that page. So, all right, restart the server. Chat started. Type something in. What happened? Well, it didn't refresh, so that's good. So, where's console? There it is. Okay, so the message is saving. All right, we're making progress. So what do we need to do?
Append it to message.
Not yet, because right now we're still on the client side. And don't forget, this client cannot talk directly to other clients. It can only talk to the server.
You got like a socket listener or whatever.
Emitter, yep.
Emitter.
So we need to socket.emit, we'll say new message, and passing it the JSON object of message, and it's going to be this form message that we just created. Oh wait, I forgot one thing. Let's create our paragraph tag so that it's a little bit cleaner. So at the end of this, plus, okay. So socket.emit new message, passing a JSON object. Okay. So now it's going to emit back to the server, and now here on the server, we need to listen for that event. So socket.on new message, run a function, tell it to expect some data, which is the JSON objects that we sent back. And because I said I like to log everything. So when we get this message, what do we want to do? Well, first thing we want to push it into the messages array so that future users can see this message. So messages.push data.message, because that's the key name that I gave it. And then, now this time, you do kind of want to see your own message, so the server needs to full broadcast this new message to every single person that's listening. So we use the io.emit update chat and pass in that same message. Oh yeah, data.message. Okay, let's see what happens. Restart. Okay. Server's running, localhost. Here's Dave, chat room started. Okay. Let's open up an incognito window. Localhost 8000. And this will be Tim. Boom. Tim has joined David. Well, we already knew that was working, so here we say, actually, let's shrink this window down. Okay. So this guy is, I should probably put his name somewhere. This guy is Dave. Dave sees Tim has joined, so he says, "What's up, Tim?" Boom, updating both. And then Tim says, "Hey, Dave." All right, so they're updating. And we go in here, so that's new message. So that's actually everything that's required of the group chat assignment. And let's just go ahead and do a new incognito window here. All right, it opened up the same size. And just get a third user in here. And say this guy is Zed. So he's got all the old messages, and both of these guys see that Zed has joined. All right. Let me just do the disconnect really quick since you asked. Let's see if I can do it. Disconnect's actually not that hard because you don't really have to do anything on the client side. So obviously when the client disconnects, there's nothing to do. So you just listen here on the server side. And I think it's just given a thing called disconnect function console.log. Let's log the user name of who disconnect. Actually, yeah, username disconnected from socket ID, and this was. Did I save the socket ID? I think I did. Yeah. Socket.id. Let's see if that works. I may need to close Windows. Okay. It crashed. Okay. Okay, so Dave is in. Incognito window. And Chad is in. And Chad's like, I hate this chat room. Let's get out. Oh, we got an error. Okay. So it does not have, I think once this, okay. Once you disconnect, I don't think it has access to that ID anymore. So one thing we can do, let's just say, let's save that in variable, say user.id. Let's add another attribute for the user and just say his ID equals a socket ID. So then we could refer to it from here. Saved, closed, restart. Nope. I guess it didn't like that. var user equals data. Oh, duh, var. Let's try that again. So I need to redeclare it. Okay, already started. Let's go in here. Dave. Said he just joined and he leaves. No error. Oh, crashed again. Doesn't like my console.log user.name plus.
Do you have a user's object?
I do right here.
What is the user?
Oh, you know what? I know the problem here. Yeah. Now, actually, my problem is my user that where I declared it inside of here. At least I'm pretty sure. We'll find out in a second. So it's not available over here. So it's a scoping issue. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's create that variable here. Change that there. And this problem with sockets, you tend to have to close and restart things. Restart. Let's hope this works. Dave. And actually, I probably don't even need to open one. Let's just close it. Okay, that was it. So be careful of your scoping. So that was a problem. Is I declared var user in the wrong spot. It wasn't available later on. So that's it. So you can see. So now you can take this message. You could push it into the messages array and broadcast that out to everybody, just like you did everything else. And actually, I was going to talk about this. That was actually good because I was going to talk about that anyway. Because this var messages, had I declared that inside of the io.sockets.on, it wouldn't have been available to everybody. So once this server starts and it listens, once somebody connects, all of this stuff up here is running already, and it's the same for everybody that connects. This io.sockets.on, all of this is going to be different for every single client that hooks up to it. So that's pretty much it. Any questions about anything?
You post that video soon?
I will post it for you.